Hi, I'm Matt from Precision Armament, and today we're going to talk about how to identify the threads on the end of your muzzle. So let's get started. Very first thing we're going to do is make sure that our firearm is in a safe condition to work on. We will be working on the muzzle, so it's very important. So for us, we're going to just remove the bolt because we don't need it for this, so we're going to get it right out of there. The weapon is on safe, and I can visually inspect the chamber and say there's nothing in it. This is a safe firearm. The purpose of this video is really to address the number one reason for a return from Precision Armament, and that's that the customer doesn't understand the threads that they have in their barrel, and they take a guess at what threads they need in their muzzle brake. So we're going to discuss ways that you can figure that out if you're not a machinist or a gunsmith and have tools like calipers, micrometers, and thread pitch gauges. So we're really going to focus on things like rulers and straight edges, tape measures, and those kind of things that most everybody will have in their household, and hopefully you can avoid that hassle for the customer. When dealing with rifle barrels, you're going to be either in a standard unit or metric unit, and both of them use the same measurement of diameter and pitch. So an example of a metric thread would be a 15 by 1, where 15 is your diameter and 1 is your pitch, or a standard unit or imperial would be a half 28, where 1/2 is your diameter and 28 is your pitch. So why don't we start by identifying the diameter of these threads here. And again, we can use things like a tape measure or a ruler. I find it's a little easier with a ruler and a straight edge. So this is just a block that we're going to hold up against the threads. We're going to bring a ruler in and we're going to measure across the center of the threads. And here you can see that it's right on the 1/2 inch mark. So we're going to say we have a 1/2 inch diameter thread. Another method to determine the diameter of your threads is to use an adjustable wrench. And this particular adjustable wrench has laser engraving on the side that gives you the scale, and it'll tell you how wide your jaws are apart. And if you were to lightly touch both sides of your threads with the jaws, it points to 1/2 inch. It's pretty handy. If your adjustable wrench does not have a scale on it, you can still use your ruler, and all you're going to do is measure between the jaws. So the opening that you're left with in this situation is 1/2 inch exactly. Okay, now we're going to determine the pitch of these threads. A nice way to do that is we grab a ruler and we hold the ruler up against it, and we're going to line the end of the ruler up with one of the peaks on the threads. In this situation, we don't have 1 inch of threads, and the pitch for a standard thread is threads per inch. We only have about a little over 1/4 inch. So for us, we're going to say we're going to count the threads over 1/4 inch and then multiply by 4. So if I line the end of the ruler up with one of the peaks of the threads and I start counting, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 thread peaks over the course of 1/4 inch. So that's going to be a 28 thread. So our thread here is 1/2 inch diameter by 28 for the pitch. If that doesn't work for you, maybe your hands are a little shaky or maybe your vision's not where you need it and you can't really see that. Another method you can use is taking a sheet of paper and a pencil, lay the paper over the threads and just lightly sketch over top of them, and what it'll do is it'll transfer all those peaks onto the paper. The next thing you can do is take your ruler, lay your ruler on top of it, lining up the end of the ruler with one of the darker lines, which represents a peak, and then take your phone or camera, take a picture of that, blow it up, and then now you have a static image you can kind of see and very slowly go through and count those lines or peaks over that 1/4 inch. So I think that's another method that might be helpful for people. If we were to work on a metric thread, instead of working with the standard, which was threads per inch or TPI, now we're going to talk about how many peaks over a course of distance, which will be metric. So say we have, say a 15 by 1 thread. So what we're going to look at is the distance between one peak to another peak, which is going to be about 1 millimeter because it's a 1 thread. The problem is you can't measure 1 millimeter between 2 threads. It's just too small, especially with this kind of device. So what we recommend is you stretch it out again over, say, 10 millimeters. So now I count the metric side of the scale, I look at 10 millimeters, and then I count how many threads there are in 10 millimeters. This is not a metric thread, but if it was, and it was a 15 by 1, we would have 10 peaks in 10 millimeters, which is a 1 thread pitch. Okay, we went over a couple methods for identifying the diameter of your threads and also the pitch. If you should have any other questions, please feel free to call, email, or leave a comment below, and we'll get you squared away. Thanks.